When a dismissive avoidant says to you, let's just simply be friends, they're not always trying to just be kind and courteous. Usually, what's actually taking place is they are trying to stay close to you without the cost or risk of vulnerability. So, in the next 7 minutes here, I'm going to break down why dismissive avoidant attachment styles sometimes prefer to offer friendship rather than love, and how to protect your heart in the process, how to decode what's really going on. And at the end of this video, I will specifically take you through an exercise for what to do if you are an anxious attachment style or fearful avoidant attachment style in this particular predicament. Okay, so an actual exercise that will help you make sense of all of this. Here's the first things that you need to know. There's basically 4 things you need to know before we get into the actual exercise. Dismissive avoidants often use the idea of friendship and extending friendship to somebody as a way to stay emotionally connected in a way that feels safe to them. Because vulnerability and having a really open heart and really letting their guard down is literally stored at a subconscious level for them as something that will often cause hurt or pain. Okay, because as a child, when they felt vulnerable, they didn't get their needs met and it was painful. They felt rejected and neglected. And so, subconsciously, because we literally see, all of us see our current world and current relationships through a lens of our past conditioning. The dismissive avoidant sees vulnerability and the idea of being that vulnerable again, like they were as a child, as things that make them feel very uncomfortable. Okay, it triggers these subconsciously stored associations. If you didn't already know this, your subconscious mind actually stores everything. Yes, we kind of consolidate memories over time, but we literally store everything. And we are all seeing our reality through a lens of our past experiences. That's why if you felt abandoned sometimes emotionally in childhood, you will come to fear that as an adult. If you felt trapped or neglected in childhood, you will come to fear that as an adult. If you felt betrayed in past experiences, you're going to fear betrayal later on, right? You're going to see how we project our past onto our present and future. Now, without going too far down the rabbit hole, we'll come back to the dismissive avoidant, but I just also want to say too that that is why we have to be able to recondition because that is how our relationship baggage occurs. We take our past and we store it. Anything that we store as something that's threatening, we try to hold on to tightly so we can protect ourselves from it. I often use the analogy of a bear in the woods. If you go into the woods and you see a bear and you run and escape, but the next day you have to go back into the same woods, your mind is going to project the likelihood of a bear onto everything. It'll be like, where's the bear? Oh my God, it's over there. It's over there. So that's what's happening to all of us, including you. Okay. And we're going to talk about at the end of this video what to do if you're in this situation and what your version of the bear actually is. Okay. But in summary, for point number 1 of 4 here, we all tend to project our past unresolved experiences onto our present and future because that's our subconscious mind that stores everything. And we basically see and interact with the world through the lens of our subconscious mind. Okay. And you can recondition that. That is the most important part to healing. That's actually how we heal, is we rewire and recondition the patterns that we've adopted that we actually have to be able to break through. That's all of what the work here that we do is. Okay. It's all about the subconscious mind inside the personal development school and a lot of videos throughout this channel. Number 2, okay, this is another reason that basically an avoidant offers, friendship instead of love, is that they often will try to, unfortunately, and honestly, it's not a very healthy strategy. And this is where we're really going to get into what to do in a little bit if you're on the receiving end of this. A lot of times they are kind of hoping that the friend will be like a friend with intimacy, a friend with benefits in a sense. But that allows them to just call it a friendship, have some of the intimacy, but not have to do any of the things that cause them to feel uncomfortable or feel like a risk. So, in a sense, a lot of times, and this is unhealed dismissive avoidants who are not aware of this stuff and often not doing the work, it is fairly frequent for a dismissive avoidant to kind of say friendship in a hope that the friendship becomes something more where they have all the intimacy and connection, but don't necessarily have the things that cause that fear. And sometimes a lot of people will stick around for that. And I really want to talk in a little bit about what to do if you're in that situation, because a lot of times that unfortunately entails a certain degree of self-abandonment and self-betrayal if that's not in alignment with your truth. And sometimes we ignore the signals of truth that are existing in our body if we pay attention, but we're going to come back to that in a few moments. Number 3 reason dismissive avoidants do this is it gives them a safe exit strategy if things feel too intense. They're like, but we're just friends, right? So they get to really, it gives them this way to essentially keep a boundary, right? And and they get to sort of refer back to it. I mean, I've seen a lot of dismissive avoidance offer friendship, then get into like romantic dynamics with somebody where they're hanging out with them all the time, they're sleeping together, they're just friends, but they're doing all of these things, they're basically acting like they're in a relationship. And then as soon as somebody's like, hey, why are you flirting with that other person while we're basically on a date this evening? And they're like, but we're just friends. And that can be really heart-wrenching for somebody because unless we have clear lines, it honestly causes so much confusion long term. And it's not, I'm not here sitting saying this to like demonize a dismissive avoidant. Dismissive avoidants, when they show up for the work, can turn into tremendous partners. But when they don't, sometimes trauma is contagious in a way, right? By proximity, because when we are exposed to somebody through repetition and emotion, it actually rubs off on somebody else truly. It fires and wires different reactions within you that are actually going to rewire your own neural pathways and circuitry. And so you have to be mindful that if you say, okay, yeah, let's just be friends, but then more happens, and you might be hoping that, okay, this means that we'll get things back on track. And that's sort of your subconscious manipulative strategy, if we're being really honest, right? It's not coming from a bad place, but you're hoping if we are friends, but then more happens, we'll evolve back. And I can kind of convince them that I'm great enough to be back in a relationship with. And then here's a dismissive avoidant doing their own version of this, going, okay, I like this person. I want to spend time with them. I want all the romantic kind of intimate parts of a relationship without the pressure, without the expectation or commitment. And hopefully we can just stay there. And you know, both parties are kind of trying to gear the relationship in a way that feels comfortable and safe for them. But we need to be able to have real, honest conversations with clear boundaries because that is just a recipe for messiness long term. Okay. So I'll share with you one other reason they do this, but then we're going to talk about the most important part, which is what to do. But the main last piece here, that the reason why dismissive avoidants do this is they like the gray area. They're the only attachment style that actually prefers the gray area a lot of the time. Now, again, this is usually before they're doing the work, but the gray area and the ambiguity and how nebulous things are in the gray area of relationships. We hang out, but we don't have a label. We spend all this time together, but we're just friends. This nebulous area allows them to kind of sneak out the back door whenever they need to. It feels like they always have this kind of ability to say, well, it's just this, or I can do that. And they're trying to foster connection with somebody because they usually care, but they're terrified of being vulnerable and letting their guard down. And so it's almost like this is their shield, right? It's almost like this is their way of putting their armor on. They get to really have this gray area, which if you look, secure people don't like gray areas in relationships. Fearful avoidance don't. Anxious attachment styles don't. It's only the dismissive avoidant. And it's because they're constantly operating in this sort of internal war between their feelings and their fears. Actually, in fairness, sometimes fearful avoidance like the gray area too, but not long term, usually just in the beginning stages of dating. So, what do you actually do? This is the most important part. Okay. What do you actually do? If you're an anxious attachment style or fearful avoidant attachment style, or really anybody in this dynamic, the very first question, I'm going to take you through three questions here. Okay. The very first question I want you to ask yourself is, staying friends with this person and being in this nebulous kind of gray area where we're not sure what's going on, how does that actually make you feel in your body? And I want you to take a moment and notice. And I want you to look at the general entirety of the relationship dynamic. I don't want you to look at, oh, those great moments that you do have fun and you're on the date for an hour or you sleep over at the person's house for the evening and oh, it feels great when we're together. No, I want you to look at everything in between. If you have 2 hours with somebody that are great and then you have 156 hours in your week, and the other 154 of them are spent feeling anxious, worried, confused, diminishing your self-esteem. Like, I want you to really take a look at that and ask yourself, how does this make me feel in my body? Okay. And the next question I want you to ask yourself, okay, these are very anchoring questions, is this me operating in my truth? Okay. Is this me truly being in a place where I feel like this is what I want? I love the gray area. I just want to be friends with this person and then see what happens forever and feel like my life is waiting on hold. What do you actually feel? Is that your truth? Or by going and jumping in here with somebody and staying in that dynamic, okay, are you abandoning your truth? Okay. And I'm going to tell you a third major piece, and this is actually the conversation you're going to have with a dismissive avoidant if you feel courageous and called to do so. But before I do, I just want to let you know that there is an entire course all about understanding exactly what we're going to cover here that you can check out fully for free. It is called How to Master the Dating Stage of Relationships. It's about just defining your standards, your needs, your non-negotiables, going through examples from lists, and then being able to communicate them in healthy, tailored ways to people of a different attachment style. And I'll put that link down below if you want to check it out literally fully for free. And just for a limited time, it actually comes with a free course for life that you get to keep. So it's not just you get to check this, check out the personal development school, but you actually get to keep the attachment styles and intimacy course for free for the rest of your life. So it's a giveaway. It's only for a few days for the month. It's not for the entire month. So I will put that link down below. And that talks about each attachment style's relationship to intimacy, the do's, the don'ts, the good, the bad, the everything in between, the challenges, how to address those challenges. So, anyways, I'll put that link there. But here's the last really important thing, okay? If you were thinking of staying in the gray area, that tells me that you probably struggle a little bit with your own standards, with your own needs, with your own non-negotiables in this situation. And I want you to sit down and ask yourself, what are my standards in a relationship? What are my standards in a friendship even, right? Because maybe this person's your friend, but like, do you want to have friends that make you feel romantically confused? Is that something that you're good with? Is that something you're truly okay with? And a lot of times when we don't know who we are in this area of our lives, when we don't know our truth when it comes to our standards, our needs and our non-negotiables, then we don't know what to say no to. If you don't know what your yeses are, you won't know what to say no to. So sitting down and taking the time to be like, okay, what are my standards in this dynamic? What are my needs in this dynamic? What are my non-negotiables? And when you've mapped those things out, okay, and your non-negotiables can be things like, I don't want to date somebody who's literally unavailable for a committed relationship. Maybe in your truth, you're looking for a committed relationship. Maybe you're not, but you need to check in with yourself, okay? Your standards might be, I want somebody who invests in a relationship dynamic the same way that I do, right? If I'm going to really show up and make an effort, I want to feel like that's reciprocal, right? So I want you to get clear. And then if somebody offers friendship, if you realize, wait, I'm actually not okay with being just friends and having this gray, muddied area of the relationship, that calls for a conversation. And ideally, your conversation goes something like this. Hey, I thought about what you said about how you're only available to be friends. I really value our relationship and even the friendship part of it, but I know that I'm actually not looking for just friendship in this dynamic. I know that there's feelings. I know that that's going to be messy for me. That's not really what I'm looking for long term. So I want to let you have a think about it for a couple of days. Let me know if you are willing to try and make an effort to actually, it doesn't have to be immediately, but to actually move the needle towards what could be something more. Or if you only see this as pure friendship, and if that's the case, then I'm going to have to step away from this relationship just for my own peace of mind going forward. Okay, so you can say something like that, right? You can sort of put that into your own words, but ideally, if you're like, no, 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 the friendship is a no for me, I feel like I'm self-abandoning and self-betraying by trying to stay friends and stay in this gray area, you can tell somebody the gray area isn't what I'm looking for. We can be, out of each other's lives and take space completely, or we can do the work to move towards something, okay? But you probably need the clarity and the certainty if you're being fully honest with yourself. So check in, okay? Check in, see, take the time to really consider your standards and non-negotiables. It's possible that that's not what you're looking for. It's possible that you're totally okay with the ambiguity or the nebulousness of the gray area of relationships. But what matters is that that's actually a conscious process where you attune to yourself, you checked in your body, and you see how that makes you feel. Okay, so that is it for today. Let me know if you have questions in the comments down below. Thank you for stopping by and for watching. And I can't wait to see you in future videos. I hope you subscribe so you don't miss any videos or any free courses that we give away in the weeks to come. See you soon.